The Anthony Richardson era in Indianapolis comes to a screeching halt in just 10 starts. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first post-Richardson news listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Hello, everyone. I am Zach Hicks, your favorite film nerd here on Locked On Colts and your favorite film nerd over at horseshoehuddle.com and your new FLACCO film aficionado, baby. That's what I am here for, Locked On Colts going forward. But yes, the Colts have made the massive move of benching 22-year-old quarterback for 39-year-old quarterback Joe Flacco going forward. This comes off the heels of a game where Anthony Richardson was not his best in this one. He completed 10 of 32 passes for a 31% completion percentage for 175 yards, a touchdown, and a pick in the Colts' loss against the Houston Texans. And the Colts decided to make the move to Joe Flacco for the rest of the season or just for a game. I don't know. I don't know what it is right now. We're kind of just reacting to this news as it just happened. But yeah, man, the Colts are kind of moving off of the Anthony Richardson project for the time being after just 10 total starts across 2 seasons. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. Anthony Richardson was not good this year and was not good whatsoever in his starts this season. It was regression in every single sense of the word. It was not positive play from him. And honestly, this past week wasn't even his worst start, but it wasn't a positive one either. We haven't seen many positive moments from Anthony Richardson this year, but this is a tough move to make, man. It is a tough move to make. I mean, this is a quarterback who the Colts drafted at 21 years old after just a handful of college starts. You knew this was going to be a project going in, and they made the commitment last season in week 1. We are going to start him, and we're going to let him play through this, and then they get out there during the first season. He shows some positive traits last year, gets hurt, comes back this year, has some struggles, and isn't, the same guy they showed in week 1 of last year, just in last year in general, and how they're moving to Joe Flacco. And again, even if this is a 1-week thing or a rest of the year thing, whatever, look, the odds of this thing working out regardless are going to be very low, but if you're already benching the kid at this point, it's probably not going to work. It's probably not going to work. If you feel the need to move to 39-year-old Joe Flacco at this point and benching the kid, it's not going to work, man. It's over. It's over. Even if he becomes a starter again next year or the year after or whatever, I don't know what the plan is right now. I don't even know if the Colts know what the plan is right now. This experiment, this project is just not going to work. And there's just no way you can convince me in any feasible mind that the Colts are, that Joe Flacco fixes everything. Getting Joe Flacco out here is all of a sudden the fix to anything. There's nothing that you gain from this. A 39-year-old quarterback who is barely the present, because at most you're going to get maybe 9 wins out of this guy and earn the right to get blown out by Kansas City in the first round of the playoffs. At worst, again, he's just as bad as Anthony Richardson. So I just don't know what the thought process is here. You put him in there in week 1 of last season at 21 years old to get him those reps he needed on the field. He barely had any starts in college, and you're completely committing to him playing through the bad moments. And don't get me wrong, the bad moments were there this season. There were a lot of bad moments. I am in no way trying to defend his play on the field this year because it simply wasn't good enough. But again, you take a 21, 22-year-old quarterback with that in mind. The mind in mind is him working through those bad moments and eventually getting to where you need him to be. And again, if you give up after the season, because say week 18, This player is just not showing progress. It is regression at every sense, and you have to pivot in the offseason. That's perfectly fine. But what are you giving me the rest of the season with Joe Flacco? What is this doing for the future or for the present? Like the present, again, do you think this team is a Super Bowl ready roster? This Super Bowl ready roster with a below average defense, with linebackers that can't cover worth a darn, with wide receivers who can't separate whatsoever, with an injured offensive line. Bernhard Ryman's out this week. Right guard is out for the rest of the season, with tight ends who I don't even like. What have the tight ends even done this year? Like, I know I'm just kind of rambling here because there's some frustration here, but even if Flacco gives you a playoff berth here, even if Flacco gives you a divisional win, like John is saying here in the comment section, say he's doing any of this stuff for you, you're not going to the Super Bowl. So what does that matter? Like, what does that matter in the slightest? Oh, wow, cool. We got to the playoffs with a 39-year-old quarterback. He retires. Okay, now what are we doing? What's the plan right here? So I don't know, man. I don't know what the plan is here for the Colts. And you guys are putting a Twitter thing in here too, which is very helpful here. Stephen Holder is saying that the decision was for Richard to take a step back, take a break from the pressures of the job, and try to grow during this time. Well, here's my response to that. The biggest thing that was said about Richardson coming out as a prospect is he just did not have enough starts. He did not see the field enough in college. We are going to get him out there, and we are going to see what he can do and have him grow on the job. What is he gaining from sitting? He sat all of last year. He sat for most of his college career. Him sitting more going forward, when you eventually put him on the field, he's going to have logged more games in the NFL on the bench than on the field. Like, what is sitting going to do for him here? I'm not even saying that he's destined to work. Like, this is not an emotional reaction to the Anthony Richardson project potentially not working. That I don't like it is part of this, But the thing that frustrates me is this commitment to mediocrity. It's this, we might be in jeopardy of not getting to our 8 to 9 wins. So let's get Joe Flacco out there. Let's build this thing back up to our 9 wins and be happy with this season. And oh, shoot, we were so close to making the playoffs. That's what this is more about. This is Jim Irsay seeing the Colts get swept by the Houston Texans and saying, we need somebody out there who can move the ball a little bit more. And even if Joe Flacco can move the ball a little bit more, who cares? Who cares? Where's the future? Where's the present with that? This roster is not going anywhere with Joe Flacco. It wasn't going anywhere with Anthony Richardson either this season. Like, don't get me wrong, but he's a young quarterback who at least you could somewhat bank on the future with that. You could bank on maybe one day, even if it is a fruitless, just hope for the future, you could bank on that with him. You can't bank on anything with Joe Flacco. What is Joe Flacco getting you here? Outside of a just miraculous, 40-year-old quarterback somehow working, like to drag this below average team to a Super Bowl, that like, this is it, man. I don't understand this. It's this commitment to being mediocre. And I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, again, the Colts are doing the political rigmarole, right? Or the going through the press, they're doing that rigmarole, whatever the heck that word is with that, where they're going around being like, oh yeah, we're not giving up on his future. Don't worry. The whole Bryce Young thing and all that stuff right there. We need to give him a couple weeks here or the rest of the year to really get the fix around him. But what this really does lead to with the Colts is they're going to go back to the veteran quarterback market. Like, what this means for the Colts is they are back to 2019 Colts, 2020 Colts, 2021 Colts, 2022 Colts. Like, this is just what they're going to be going forward. So after Flacco does his thing this year, gets them to 9 wins and retires or leaves in the offseason, then it'll be a Justin Fields. Then it'll be a Sam Darnold. Then it'll be Russell Wilson on an age 45 year. Like, it's going to be this veteran quarterback thing again. And look, again, like, I'm not saying Richardson prevents that. Like, Richardson at the end of the season, if you felt like you had to move on, that's fine. But Joe Flacco gives you nothing. It gives you nothing. It is completely tapping out on the project you committed to after 10 starts. Again, Richardson was not trending in the right direction, but tapping out completely on it after 10 career starts, it's like, were you really even committed to the process at all? Like, if Richardson struggled after 5 games last year, were you going to pull the rug out from under him on that too? Like, I don't know. I don't know if the Colts were fully committed to this thing because maybe it didn't guarantee their 9-win, perfection that they need every single season. But coming up, guys, we're going to transition this conversation to the man of the hour, Christopher Ballard. We're going to talk all about Chris Ballard. And hey, look, this might not be the end of the Chris Ballard era in Indy. So for all those people saying, hey, Richardson being a bust or Richardson missing is the end of Chris Ballard, oh, baby, no, he's just getting started here in Indy. Don't worry. But first, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Alrighty, Locked On Colts everydayers, all 334 of you guys in here. Holy crap, you guys are having a lot of fun right now. That's for YouTube. And then for all you people listening on audio, we do appreciate you tuning in for your first post-Richardson listen of the day, talking about the Anthony Richardson benching. And yeah, now we're going to shift our conversation to Chris Ballard, because I have seen a lot of people, myself included, look, if this Richardson thing doesn't work out, because again, it was a major project. Even me at the beginning of this whole process, who was the most optimistic in what Richardson could be, especially with Shane Steichen and this Colts staff, I recognize that it could have been a failure, and obviously it was right to recognize that it could be a failure. But I did say, look, if this thing misses, it is on Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard can no longer get away from this stuff if this fails, because he finally invested in that quarterback. And he has said for years that once you draft that quarterback, the timer starts. The timer starts for you as a GM and as a team when you draft that quarterback. So you want to be right. And they took that quarterback, and it's not going to work. And that the timer started for Chris Ballard. It should be out. But look, here's the one thing we're forgetting here. You make this move halfway through the season because you're trying to save yourself. You're trying to save, and Chris Ballard is so good at saving himself. He traded for Carson Wentz because he knew that if Carson Wentz didn't work, it wouldn't be on him. It would be on Frank Reich. That's maybe looking at this way too nefarious here, but when it comes to Chris Ballard, this guy is a cockroach. He knows how to survive in anything. And the big thing again, man, with Chris Ballard is when you make this move, you're going to get to around 8 to 9 wins. I'm not saying Joe Flacco is going to go out here and beat Minnesota this week, or he's going to beat Detroit or Buffalo, but he can go to Tennessee and beat Tennessee. He can go to or he could play the home game against Jacksonville and beat Jacksonville. He can beat the Giants, or maybe get a little feisty against the Broncos here. Maybe beat the Jets on that primetime game. Flacco can do those things because he's a fine backup, or he's a fine below-average starting quarterback. Whatever. He's doing all that stuff here. He can do all those things, and once you get to those 9 wins, we can do the, oh, shucks, if a couple more breaks go our way, we're a playoff team. And darn it, if we're a playoff team, there's always a chance here. So pivoting to Joe Flacco is that getting to 9 wins. It's the 9 wins I need to keep my job here. And I'm telling you, man, if they get to the 9 wins with Flacco, regardless of what happens with Richardson, if they get there with Flacco, man, you think Jim Irsay is going to fire that? No, Jim Irsay got exactly what he needed. He got the 9 wins he needed right there from his general manager. So for all the people saying, look, benching Richardson and being done with Richardson means that Chris Ballard is going to be gone and Shane Steichen's going to be gone. Look, man, I don't think that's the case. I think Chris Ballard might pick the next 3 or 4 quarterbacks in Indianapolis because, again, once they do the veteran thing once a year for the next 4 or 5 years, those are all going to be Chris Ballard quarterbacks. So the Justin Fields signing next year is going to be the Chris Ballard quarterback. The Russell Wilson one in 10 years from now, when Russell Wilson is getting ready to run for Congress, that's going to be the Chris Ballard quarterback that can save us. So look, I say all this obviously in jest because it has been long enough for Chris Ballard here in Indy. But like at some point, you have to have some accountability to be something more than mediocre. And I don't think there's ever been a time in this Colts tenure where the Colts have ever gone for being more than mediocre, or they have tore it all down and say, let's start again. And we're not going to settle for this mediocre. If we can't get over the hump with these guys, we're going to get new guys in here. And they haven't made that choice since 2017. 2017, Ballard comes in, tears down the Ryan Grigson roster, did a good job tearing it down, got some good players in here, drafted some good players, and overall, I think he's been a fine general manager. But when you keep staying the course, you keep staying in this mediocre just level of play, you're going to stay at this 8 to 9 win mark. Maybe some years you get up to 10 wins. Maybe some years you go down to 7. You had the one disastrous year in 2022 where you go down to 4, but don't worry, that's on Frank Reich. That's not on Chris Ballard. You have all of those years mixed in here. But there's never been a time where it's been like, we're not settling for this. There's never been an offseason, and I'm not even saying this is the right process. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's never been an offseason where it's like, this roster's not good enough. Let me bring in talent from the free agent class. Let me be aggressive going up and getting a star impact player in the draft. Let me, go sign this free agent or trade for this guy. There's never been a time where it's been go all in, when it comes to pushing the roster past its limits. And there's never been the other time where 2022 happens. This roster was not good enough. I mean, I know the quarterback play stunk, but this roster was bad. And the Colts only won 4 games that season. Lost on a Hail Mary at the end of the year. And what did they do? Brought in a new quarterback and they ran it back. They re-signed everybody, ran it back with the rest of the roster, and got back to their mediocrity with, Gardner Minshew playing a bunch of games and now Joe Flacco playing this year. Where has there ever been a commitment from this front office or from anyone along this team to be anything more than mediocre? Like, there's never been this commitment to be something different. It is this settling for mediocrity and wanting to be mediocre. It's just what this team is, man. Like, and this is my the whole thing with this Anthony Richardson benching is like, look, this kid needs time. Like, he is not ready to win right now. It has not been good on the field this year. But the only way this project even has a chance of working is letting him work through his reps on the field and letting him actually get game experience, because he didn't get any of that in college. He barely got that stuff in high school. Like, he has not played quarterback much at all since the time he switched to quarterback in high school. So just benching him now and being done with that after 10 NFL starts, like, yeah, it wasn't good starts. And I'm sure, like, you want it to be better. The baseline needs to be better, but you're just committing like, oh gosh, we tried this thing. But it was too scary. We're going back to the thing we know. It's like you have that one friend who just binge watches the same show over and over again. I'll watch Parks and Rec all day long. That's the only thing I can watch. It's a nice little laugh in the background. That's all I need. And then you recommend a show that has substance or a show with more substance or something like that. That could be something that works for them. And it just becomes something great. And they watch like 2 episodes of like, no. I need to go back to Parks and Rec. And I need my comfort blanket and go back to Parks and Rec. I know Parks and Rec might be an offensive thing here because I know you guys love Parks and Rec, but it's just like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Stop going back to the things Take a shot. Take a risk. I thought Richardson was that risk. I was happy that they finally took a risk, man. That's the only thing I really cared about when they drafted Anthony Richardson. It wasn't the fact that this was the guy that I really wanted. It was, like, I liked him, don't get me wrong, but they could have taken Will Levis at that pick. They could have taken who knows what. Like, I don't care. They could have taken any young quarterback at that 4th overall pick, and I would have been happy because they finally committed to the young quarterback, and they finally committed to a process that wasn't mediocre Band-Aid. That's all it was. That's all it was before that. That's all it's been. And man, like, they're just right back to it, man. They saw 10 games of it. They got scared and they went right back to their Band-Aid. Like, at some point you have to commit to something more or something like, I'm not saying you commit to something less, but you try something, man. Like, it's just been the same Band-Aids over and over again. And this is all it is. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care the result of the young quarterback thing, but like, see it out to the result at least. But yeah, this is just what it is, man. Like, this team, and like, I don't know if it's going to change. Like, Chris Ballard is going to be like, I know I'm struggling with my words here, but I really just wanted them to commit to the young quarterback process. And to give it up after a year and a half, like, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, again, I'm not saying Richardson was going to work. It wasn't looking great, and it was regressing from everything he did last year. But, like, I wanted a commitment to the process. That's all I wanted, man. Just a commitment to the process, and to show that you're fine with not going back with the, like, you are actually trying to build something more than mediocre. And to go right to a Joe Flacco who guarantees you mediocrity halfway through year two, like, it's just the same old Colts, man. It's the same old Colts. But coming up, again, we're going to keep talking about settling for mediocrity and again, what this Colts team is going forward. But first, Prize Picks is the best place to get money, sports, action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup alive. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Alrighty, Locked On Colts everydayers. Again, I would love to read all of your comments here on YouTube, but they are coming in fast and furious, and it's just me today, so it's hard to really read them and talk. I do appreciate all your love here on the comments and all your conversation in the comment section. And for all you audio listeners, we love you as well. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Colts, reacting to the Anthony Richardson benching. Again, we're just going to keep talking about the settling for mediocrity. And you know what? I kind of want to paint a picture for you guys, just from my own personal experience. As you guys know, or hopefully a lot of you guys know, I know we might have some new listeners in there, so I'll tell you guys, I grew up a Washington Commanders fan. Like, I was born and raised a Washington Commanders fan. I went through the heartbreak of the Sean Taylor stuff. I went through all the terrible, years of the RG3 heartbreak in 2012 and the Kirk Cousins years and all that. I went through all of that stuff with Washington as a diehard fan. Like, every single Monday, man, I was just crying, man, on Mondays because it was horrible. They sucked, and I know what fandom is like because of that team. But I remember when it fully broke for me, when the apathy set in and I stopped caring about my Washington Commanders. And that is when they made the trade for Alex Smith. When they traded for Alex Smith, it was done for me, man. Like, all of my fandom left my body, and it was this committing to just being mediocre. It was this multi-year commitment to getting whatever Alex Smith brings you, and what Alex Smith brings you at best was mediocre. And to bench Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco, again, if this is a one-game thing, it's still just dumb. I guess it's not as big a deal, but it's still pretty dumb. But to bench him for the rest of the year and commit to this mediocrity, it feels apathetic to me, man. Like I know I've been riled up on this episode and obviously speaking just off the cuff and giving my honest thoughts on what is happening with the Colts here. But I truly feel this apathy here when the Colts made this decision because, again, it just going right to Joe Flacco, man, it is just, you get nothing. You get nothing. I know we all want to see playoffs in that singular season. I know we all want to see it, guys. I get it. But think about, like, anything big picture here. Like, push away the fun moments that you get. Like, we might go out there and he might beat the New York Giants. Cool. He might beat the Tennessee Titans late in the season. Cool. What does this get after this season? What does he see? Like, even the rest of the season, like, we might have some fun moments. It's like the Minshew run last year. Like, it was fun to watch Minshew play some ball and nearly get to the playoffs. And I wanted playoffs last year with Gardner Minshew, but, like, realistically, the excitement was the fact that they drafted a young quarterback and he was coming back next year. That was the excitement because the young quarterback could actually be something. Joe Flacco's not going to be anything. like, even if Joe gets us into the playoffs, like, cool. And then the year ends and then Joe retires and where are we from there, you know? And that's just what I mean when it comes to the apathy setting in, where it's like, I feel like we just had this ring around every single year since Andrew Luck. I mean, we had the Jacoby Brissett year of 2019, just no care really that year because they got the rug pulled out from under them when it came to Andrew Luck, and there's just nothing they could do. Then it came the Phillip Rivers stopgap, and it was like, cool, like this was fun. This was a ready-made roster. I don't know if they can win a Super Bowl, but it'll be a fun season. Like, but there's no long-term hope there. Like maybe you get a second year out of him, but that's really it. Then Carson Wentz comes in, you get a little bit of excitement, but honestly, by like the mid-year point of that season, the Colts were already kind of decided on him, that they did not want him back after that year. And then they go to Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan, it was super quick as well with that one. And even if Matt Ryan worked out for that year, where was the future with Matt Ryan? There was no future with Matt Ryan. He was another old quarterback. And just, again, they finally committed to the young quarterback. They took him high. They said, we're going to play him day one. This is going to take time. We're going to get him the reps he needs on the field. He's going to learn through the on-the-field reps. And he got 10 games started out of it. He got 10 games started out of it. Before they decide they need to go back to the old quarterback so they could get, the non-future again. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the future is for this team. I don't know what the goal is for this team going forward. Again, maybe it was in their long-term plans. Maybe they had their all-seeing eye when they drafted Anthony Richardson. They said, you know what? We'll give him half of his first year. If he gets banged up, whatever, we'll give him half of the next year. And then we'll have a veteran come in for a couple games if it's not working. Like, whatever, maybe that's part of their crazy plan here, but like, I don't see the future. I don't see it anymore, man. Like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Like, I just do not understand what the plan is here for the Colts. So looking to the future now, like, is this thing salvageable with Anthony Richardson? Honestly, I want someone to find one example for me, and you guys are in the comment section right now. Find one example for me of a healthy quarterback being benched, a healthy young quarterback being benched, and then coming back and being the future of that team and being the guy. I think the only one I had brought up for me was Terry Bradshaw back when my parents were children. Benched. We're talking benched here. It's done, man. Jordan Love was not benched. Jordan Love was not the starter from day one. Richardson was starting for a year and a half, and they benched him. Like, it's done, man. Like, it's what it is. So, yeah. Tua might be one. There we go. I didn't know if Tua was benched, but cool. All right, yeah, you guys are saying a lot of Tua ones. Okay, cool. So Tua Tagovailoa. There we go. Thank you very much for that one. So one time, Tua and Terry Bradshaw. So we'll see if Richardson could be the third name to that list there. But yeah, guys, I don't know. Maybe this works out somewhere else for Richardson, or maybe this works out for the Colts later. But yeah, man, I don't really have a ton of words here for this whole thing. Like I know I'm on this show here talking to y'all, but like, it's just a frustrating thing. And I hope it works out. Like, I hope somehow Richardson overcomes the odds. Maybe it's a 1 week bench. Maybe it's a 2 week bench, whatever it is. Hopefully he can come back out and maybe being benched for a couple weeks fixes everything. maybe his lack of reps just needed fewer reps. And once he gets fewer reps, he can figure it out on the bench. I don't know, man. But like, all I know is it's just a frustrating thing for the Colts. And it's probably the end. It's probably the end of Richardson in Indy. So again, guys, that's all I really have for today on this. Just a 30-minute reaction to the Anthony Richardson news and the state of this Colts team. I know I sound very much like a doomer and it's all, nigh here, but like, those are my honest thoughts on the subject right now. I don't really see the future right now. And I will happily be proven wrong if Richardson reemerges as a starter in a couple weeks and looks good. But like, as of right now, man, like, my confidence was low when Richardson was kind of struggling, but I was going to ride it out until the end of the season. Now with this benching, I don't know. So you guys can let me know in the comment section. Are you happy with this benching? Do you think this is the right move for the Colts? Do you think that they have a plan for this going forward, or what? Like, let me know your honest opinions in the comments. I really appreciate your guys' feedback. And look, again, I'd be happy to be wrong. I would love to be wrong here. I hope Flacco wins the Super Bowl for the Colts this year, and then Richardson comes out next year looking like the greatest quarterback to ever start for the Colts. I really hope that happens. I'm struggling to see it right now. And I don't know if it's gonna get there with this team, with this organization, with these people in place, and with Richardson at quarterback. Like, I really hope it does, though. But again, I do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first post-Richardson news listen of the day. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube, wherever you listen to your guys' podcast. And if you guys don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings and reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.